Laker Nation, do we have a show for you today? There's some rumors out there that the Lakers could be very, very active on the player acquisition front, and it is two players that the Lakers have coveted for years, Chris Paul and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we are going to talk about them both right here on the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Jeffrey Cooperstein. Hope everyone is enjoying their week so far. We will start with Chris Paul, who is in his 21st NBA season, and this one kind of came out of nowhere as Chris Haynes tweeted late last night that the Clippers and Chris Paul are going to be parting ways, and they are sending Chris Paul home. And this was just a very bizarre thing because, number one, Chris Paul is probably the greatest Clipper of all time. If not him, it's Blake Griffin. And he was an absolute legend, finishing his final year in the NBA with the team that he most identified with in his NBA career. It has just been a very weird situation between the Clippers and CP3. They're 5-16 to start this season. He signed there to stay close to home in his final NBA year, and they're just going to send him home after 21 games. Now, I did see some reports earlier today that Paul and the Clippers management just didn't really get along. They were clashing styles, and it got to the point where Chris Paul and Ty Lue were not even on speaking terms for the final couple of weeks of Paul's tenure there with the Clippers. So they sent him home, but something just feels weird to me. Like something is going on here. Shout out to Brian Windhorst. And I just don't know why the Clippers would even sign CP3, knowing that his kind of leadership style is maybe a little different than others. Like Paul likes to be verbal and hold people accountable, including players, coaches, and front office, about doing their job to the highest level possible. And if the Clippers didn't want that, well, why'd you bring Chris Paul into the fold at that point? So I just don't know what's going on there in LA with the Clips, and that organization is just an absolute shambles right now. I mean, you have the aspiration stuff, the Pablo Torre thing going on, the Kawhi Leonard stuff. Like, it is just a dysfunctional organization over there with the Clippers, and I probably blame them more than I do CP3. And Paul could potentially be a fit for the Lakers, and we'll discuss that here in just a moment. But start us off here on today's show, Lakers fans. Should the Lakers sign CP3? Type S for sign or type P for pass down in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so you may get hit with the YouTube ad break here, and it'll be at the top of the comment section. Go on down there and get your votes in if the Lakers should bring in Chris Paul. I don't know if they should. I don't know if they shouldn't. But what I do know is it'll be relatively difficult for the Lakers to sign Chris Paul for a multitude of reasons. Number one, and shout out to Bobby Marks, who is the front office expert of all experts on Twitter. If you haven't, go give him a follow. But basically, the Lakers have an open roster spot and could be an option next month, but they can't sign a 15th player until January 19th. And basically, that reasoning is because the Lakers are so close to the apron that they don't have the money to sign someone until the prorated veteran minimum comes down to whatever that number is, and that date is January 19th. So they'd be able to sign Chris Paul on January 19th for like $1.4 million or whatever the case may be for the rest of the season. So they can't even do anything with Chris Paul until mid-January, over a month from now, which would make it relatively difficult for the Lakers to sign him. Now, they do have the open roster spot, as we mentioned, so it could be a possibility there that the Lakers try to go get Chris Paul. But at the end of the day, I really don't know if it would be a great thing for the Lakers to try to do that, simply because their point guard depth chart is pretty stacked here at the moment. I mean, they don't really need Chris Paul. They have Luka, Austin Reaves. Those guys are your main point guards, and I know they played together, but obviously Reaves is your second ball handling option there. You have Gabe Vincent as a guy coming off the bench. Now, he does deal with a lot of injuries, and so does Marcus Smart for that matter. Both of those guys have been in and out of the lineup with various ailments. So if you wanted to bring in a guy like Chris Paul to maybe give them some support when those guys are hurt, I could see that being the case. But if everyone's healthy, CP3 is not playing above any of those four guys, in my opinion, which is weird because last season, Chris Paul, at the age of 39, had a remarkable year for San Antonio. He played in all 82 games. He started in all 82 games, and he averaged 8.8 points, 7.5 assists, and shot 37% from three. Now, this season, he only played in 15 games. He hasn't started any games, and he has less than 3 points per game and right around 3.3 assists per game as well. So, to be honest, I thought CP3 had some gas in the tank, and I really thought that he was going to be able to provide the Clippers with some much needed leadership. But the situation surrounding Paul gets even more complicated just because the Clippers really can't release Chris Paul because they are in a cap situation where they have 14 people on their roster. And if you don't know, you can't dip down below 14 people on your roster for more than 14 days at a time. So if you have 13 players, you can have that on your roster for 14 days, and then you have to sign a 14th player. However, the Clippers can't sign anybody because they also are too close to that first apron, so they're unable to sign someone until January. And Paul is not eligible to be traded until December 15th. So basically, the Clippers are stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Like, they really they can't waive him until a few weeks from now. And no one's going to trade for Chris Paul knowing that he's just going to be released a couple of years later. So the Clippers really screwed themselves over with this Chris Paul situation. And I feel for him because like I said, it is his last NBA season. And he really wanted to stay close to home and be close to his family while playing with an organization that he so deeply respected. But now he's going to try to find a new home. And whether or not he tries to go to a contender like the Oklahoma City Thunder, or he wants to stay home with a team like the Lakers, remains to be seen. But in my opinion, I really don't see it happening for the Lakers. I think the only possibility of CP3 actually becoming a Laker this season is if the Lakers make a mid-season trade and they open up another roster spot and they're able to bring him in. Like, if they trade a Gabe Vincent away or they trade a Marcus Smart away at the deadline, then maybe they would need to bring in another guard, and that could be where CP3 enters the fold. But the whole situation between him and the Clips is just very weird. I don't know if he ends up a Laker or not, but it's certainly something to monitor as time goes on here. And if the Clippers officially waive him, then the Lakers could sign him later in January to that prorated veteran minimum contract. If you want free, informative Lakers content, we are the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button at youtube.com/Lakers TV. We're talking about Chris Paul. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo coming up as well. All of the latest Lakers news and rumors. We are your one-stop shop right here at the channel. And coming up, we are going to talk about the latest on Giannis because things are getting interesting and ugly in Milwaukee with Giannis and the Bucks. And we'll discuss whether or not he might be a Laker here in just a moment. But before we do that, today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. It is the holiday season here, and this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. This is the absolute best time of year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes, it's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is PrizePicks. I've absolutely loved watching players like Luka, like LeBron, like DeAndre Ayton go off on PrizePicks, and it's super simple to play, and you can pick whatever stats you want: points, rebounds, assists, turnovers, free throws attempted. All of that good stuff is all available on PrizePicks, and it's super simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can watch your winnings roll in. And one of my favorite new features on PrizePicks is they offer early payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. My fantasy season isn't over, but if yours is, with PrizePicks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. They let you play fantasy football or basketball for that matter every single week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections. No draft required. I do have a projection for Thursday night football between the Cowboys and the Lions. I'm going to take the more on Dak Prescott passing yards, the more on George Pickens receiving yards, and the more on Jahmyr Gibbs rush yards as well. You can copy my picks or make picks of your own. Just please make sure you do it with our friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, that is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That link will be in the comments and description of today's show. PrizePicks. It is good to be right. All right, let's talk Giannis to the Lakers because boy, oh boy, are the Milwaukee Bucks in absolute shambles right now. They've lost 8 of their last 9 games, and that included a 7-game losing streak, including a loss to the Washington Wizards, who are the NBA's worst team probably. I mean, it is an absolute disaster over there in Milwaukee, and Giannis had a couple of quotes where he's talking about how to build culture and how to do things the right way and whatnot, and it fully seems like he is just not happy in Milwaukee. And we kind of thought that Giannis was going to get traded this offseason, but he is not, and he may have come to regret not requesting a trade. And another hint that he might, be interested in requesting a trade or moving to potentially even the Lakers is Giannis scrubbed his X account of almost all of his posts. And his most recent post, yeah, it's wishing Kobe Bryant a happy birthday. Does Giannis want to be a Laker? Now, I know that might be a bit of a stretch, but I do think that if Giannis does request a trade from the Bucks, the Lakers would be interested in acquiring Giannis's services. However, I don't think Giannis is a Laker just because of what it would take to acquire him. You're at minimum, you're giving up Austin Reaves. You're giving up all your available first round picks. You're giving up any other young pieces and assets that the Lakers might not want to give up. You're probably giving up Rui Hachimura in the deal as well. And I know Giannis is still a top 5 player in the league. He's a Hall of Famer, bona fide. I just don't know if the Lakers are wanting to pull off a deal of that magnitude at this time. My top 5 potential destinations for Giannis do not include the Lakers, actually. I think the Miami Heat and New York Knicks would lead the charge for a potential Giannis trade, followed by the Brooklyn Nets, San Antonio Spurs, and Dallas Mavericks, all of whom could get the deal done with both picks and players. The Heat have a bunch of young players. The Knicks have the picks. Brooklyn has both. San Antonio has both. And the Mavericks have Anthony Davis and a couple of first-round picks that they could use in that deal as well. So I don't even think the Lakers are in the top 5. And for me, the package would just be too much to give up for the Lakers. They already have a lot of their future draft assets and a lot of their future players that they don't control. And you would be giving up the rest of that to go get Giannis. So I don't know if it makes sense for Rob Pelinka to go do this deal. But that being said, no one in their right mind thought the Lakers were going to pull off a Luka Doncic trade last season. So you can never, ever count out Rob Pelinka for making the absolute blockbuster, splashy move that shocks the NBA. It could certainly happen because of what we know about Rob and what we know about his relationships around the league, that the Lakers could just swoop in and try to make this deal happen. And if Giannis gives any indication that he wants to be a Laker and prefers LA as his destination, then I think Rob would get the deal done. At the end of the day, though, I think he either goes to Miami or the New York Knicks, and that's where he starts the next chapter of his NBA career. Before we get on out of here, though, you guys let me know, will the Lakers trade for Giannis? A simple Y for yes or N for no down there in the comment section. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, you'll find out right here on the channel because we will absolutely be making a video on that right here. And that's why you hit that subscribe button at youtube.com/LakersTV because we're bringing you all of the latest Lakers news and rumors throughout the season. Lakers are on a hot streak right now. Hopefully they can continue that. It was a bad loss the other night, though, and they need to get back on track. So we'll keep you guys up to date with everything surrounding the Lakers here on the show. Without further ado, let's go Lakers.